All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Introduction to Graffiti Fonts. This will teach you all you need to know about fonts as well as walk you step by step through the worksheet. So, what is a font? A font is a style of lettering. Now, we say lettering and not writing because it's the way the letters are formed. A style of writing, for example, would be like fiction or nonfiction, or how the writing sounds. What we're more concerned with when we're talking about fonts is the way the letters are written. So, there are many different kinds of fonts, and they are all designed by artists. Even the fonts that you're using on your computer or the fonts that you see on this screen were designed by artists. Some of those artists were graphic designers, especially when we're dealing with computer fonts. Now, how are graffiti fonts a little different than computer fonts? They are hard to read on purpose. They are colorful. They are full of patterns. They have bubbled or shaped letters, and they are individual and creative. Every graffiti artist has their own personal tag and their own personal way of writing their letters. Now, what is a pattern? A pattern is an image, line, or set of colors that repeats. Now, it can be as simple as a stripe or as complicated as all of these you see here that are some examples that you'd see in doing something like a Zentangle. Now, each box has a different pattern here that repeats to fill the space. Even if it's just black and white, you can see that as long as the thing repeats, you can have multiple different things. You can have different sizes of things. You can have lines. As long as it repeats, it's a pattern. Now, patterns can also just be the way colors interact and repeat with each other. So it doesn't just have to be in black and white, though we are going to start our graffiti fonts in black and white patterns, and eventually we're going to add color. So, first step to creating your graffiti fonts. You need to get out your worksheet and look at step 1 as you watch the following video. Alright, for section 1 of creating our graffiti font. Step 1, you are going to brainstorm 5 different fonts. You can create your own fonts, or you can use the fonts that are already in the graffiti packets. Now, this is all about brainstorming and using your time wisely. If you start creating a font or using a font and you find after a letter that you really don't like it, move on. You should not do more than 2 to 3 letters. It doesn't matter what letters you do. It can be part of your name or it can just be ABC, that's fine. Your letters can either be shaped or lined. The point of this is just to practice some fonts and find out what you like and what you don't. This section should not take you more than 10 minutes. Alright, so you can see my finished one right here. I did either 2 or 3 letters in each one. I only did 1 letter in this one because I didn't really like that one. And then I move on to step 2. Step 2, so turn to your worksheet to the section that says step 2 and watch the following video. Alright, so now, ladies and gentlemen, we've moved on to step 2. This time we are worried about shaping our letters. Now, it doesn't matter if your letters were shaped in section 1 or not. You're going to recreate them here anyways as practice. It's also going to practice making them bigger. You'll notice that the boxes in each of these sections slowly get bigger so that by the time you get to your final draft, you'll be more comfortable drawing your letters nice and big. Now, you're going to pick your 2 favorite fonts from above. I'm going to pick, let's say, this one, and I'm going to pick this one. Now, you're going to take one and bring it down into this box. You're going to make sure it fills the box. It goes almost from the top to the bottom. Now, in order to shape your letters, the easiest way, especially if your letters aren't already shaped, is to lightly, very lightly, draw your letter in your font. And then you can bubble or box around the outside. If it goes outside the box, even better. That works too. Now, the difference between a bubble and a box is that a bubble is round. So there I did my first letter in my bubble font. And I round right around the outside, all the way around, and then go in and erase the inside. If there's a lot of eraser marks on this paper, that is perfectly fine. This is just a rough draft. So this is my bubble font, and then I will do a box font the same way. Draw my letters nice and big. The difference between a bubble and a box is bubbles are round, boxes' lines are straight. Now if you don't want to draw using the inside letters and you feel comfortable just shaping your letters without that trick, feel free to do so. This section should not take you more than 5 minutes. Alright folks, so for mine I did one bubble and one box letter. You do not need to do that. Still remember that you only need to do 2 to 3 letters. If you like boxes, do 2 boxes. If you like bubbles, do 2 bubbles. It's up to you. Then we're moving on to step 3. Step 3 is where we get to add patterns. So let's turn to that section of your worksheet so that you know what we are doing. So let's watch this video. Ladies and gentlemen, section 3, step 3. Now that we have some letters that have insides and outsides, now we're going to start filling them with patterns. So, the first thing you need to do, you're going to pick one of your 2 fonts from above. I'm going to pick my rounded one. And you're going to draw that font in 2 boxes. So you can either try to freehand by looking at your top box. We'll draw this here. Or, if you're having too much trouble doing that, you can still do that trick from above, where you draw right around the letter. Once again, make sure your letters are nice and big, and they fill up the space. If you do this version, go in and erase your insides. And then make that nice outline, nice and dark. So, once you have done both of those, you are going to fill inside the letters. Now, don't worry about outside the letters yet. We'll get to that later. Right now, you're going to fill inside the letters with a pattern. That is anything that repeats. Now, your pattern could be something very simple, like stripes or polka dots. You can keep your pattern for both letters. So I could do stripes in both of these. Fill it up. Remember, this is about brainstorming. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying things out and seeing what you like. Now, if you can't come up with anything better than stripes, but you don't really want stripes, there are pattern packets that are floating around the room that you can look through and find something kind of inspiring, and you can steal and borrow these ideas from the pattern packet. Or you can just take an image, like a star, and fill it up with stars. So as long as your thing repeats and fills up the space inside, that is your pattern. Once again, you are only going to do no more than 2 to 3 letters. So I'm going to do my 2 letters here. Ooh. Remember, folks, artists erase. So I'm going to do my 2 letters here. Once I am finished both of these, then I'm going to take my second font from step 2 and repeat and do in these 2 boxes. So by the time I'm done, I'm going to have 2 different fonts, 2 to 3 letters. They're going to be shaped like step 2, and they're going to have different patterns inside each font. This section should take you between 10 to 15 minutes. Once this section is done, take your work to Ms. Chesser and get it checked off to get worksheet number 2. Alright folks, so here you can see my final example. You can see the two that I did on the video and then the two that I did separately. Now realize that I chose to do the same pattern throughout my letters. I liked that idea. If you don't like that idea and you want to do, say, stripes in this one and polka dots in this one and then stripes again and then polka dots again, you can do that as well. So, once step 3 is done, you'll bring it to me and I will give you the next worksheet, which has steps 4 and 5. So now that we've kind of got some fonts going on, we've got to figure out what your graffiti name is going to be. So turn your worksheet to step 4 and watch the following video. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're now moving on to step 4, create a tag name. Now, in your final graffiti, you can choose to use your real first or last name, or you can create a tag name. So you're going to spend a couple minutes playing around and seeing if you can come up with something that you like. Your tag name needs to be based in your real first or last name. So for instance, I'll write my name, Miss Chesser, up here. Now, I can shorten this name, so I could use Chess, I could use Chessie, Chessie. I could misspell my name, I could spell it C-K-H-E-C-H-E-R. But it needs to be at least 4 letters long. So I can play around with it, play around with your first name, play around with your last name, use these lines, come up with as many as you can. Don't spend more than 5 minutes with this. If in 5 minutes you can't come up with anything, you can just use your real first or last name. Alright, one thing I did not mention in the video is that you cannot use your initials. It's got to be your actual first name or your actual last name. No middle names, no initials. This is going to be your sketchbook cover. I need to know who it is. And even if your name is misspelled or shortened, I can figure out whose sketchbook it is. So make sure it is based in your first or last name, no middle names, no initials. And now turn your worksheet to step 5. Now we are getting into your whole name, so let's watch our video. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are now on step 5, the last step of creating our tag names. Now, this time around, you're going to be using your whole name. So this is going to be pretty much the rough draft of your tag name before we put it onto any of our other versions. So the first thing you need to do is turn your paper so it is horizontal, just like the other boxes that we've been working with. Then you're going to pick your 2 favorite fonts from step 3. So pull your step 3 worksheet out or flip to it in your sketchbook and pick your favorite 2. I think I'm going to pick this one and pick this one. Alright, so I'm going to do 1 in each box. So we'll do this one right here in this box here. Nice and big. Fill up the box. Make it as tall as you can. Make sure you still include your pattern inside. This time you are going to do your whole name, whatever part of your name you're choosing to do. Whether you're choosing to do one of the tag names from step 4, or you're going to do your whole first or last name. You could, if you wanted, try different things with each font. So I could do Chesser with this one and my first name with the other one, or I could do Chessie with this font and something else with the other font. That's fine. This is your last chance to experiment. So maybe even look at how these fonts fit together. Maybe overlap them a little bit. Have some of them going underneath other letters so that part of them aren't visible. But make sure that you include your patterns. Make sure that you're filling the box and keeping the letters nice and big. Even if they don't quite touch the top and the bottom, keep them nice and big. This step shouldn't take you more than 5 to 10 minutes. Once you've completed this step with both fonts, so I've done this font and I've done the second box, then I can bring your worksheet to Ms. Chesser and start brainstorming some symbols.